Hi gang, Scott Davenport here. This video is one in a series about Luminar 4 to help you get up and running with the new version of the software fast. Now the first time you launch Luminar 4, if you're already using Luminar 3 to manage your photos, you'll be asked to upgrade your catalog. So the catalog will be updated to the new format, and under the covers, Luminar is going to create a copy of that catalog for you. So your Luminar 3 catalog is kept safe and sound and untouched, migrated and updated to Luminar 4, and you continue working from there. And of course, when you start working in Luminar 4 and move forward, you're going to not have those same changes done in your old catalog. It's really there just as a backup purpose. If it's the first time you're ever launching Luminar to manage your photos, well, Luminar's going to ask you a couple of questions. Where are your photos, and where should I put the catalog? I'll launch my preferences here really quickly. You see, I chose the location of where to put my catalog. And then as far as the photos for Luminar, I pointed it at this pictures folder. And inside this pictures folder on my computer, I have all these different subfolders with these images in it. So Luminar was pointed at just this top folder, and it found all of the other photos that are in that folder and everything beneath it. So I didn't have to go and import or point it at every single photo. Just point at the top level and let Luminar go find everything. If you also later on want to add in more folders, you have a couple of choices. On your computer itself, in this pictures area, you can just add subfolders. So if I were to go over to my Finder, you can see I just have these folders here. If I drag in a new set of images or a new folder of images, that will all just show up magically in Luminar. All the photos that were in there would show up in here. I can also point Luminar at it with add folder of images and just add more things in. So it's quite easy to keep the set of photos between the folders on your computer and what's shown in Luminar in sync. I would just say pick one way to do it and then do it that way all the time, so you're not confusing yourself of changing things around or moving things and then wondering why the other side of the equation changed. Now let's take a look at the interface here. There's a few things to point out. First, all of your thumbnails of all the photos that are in your selected folder or album are all shown here. The interface is very snappy. Across the top, you have a few controls, and these will change. This whole toolbar will change depending on what you're working on at the given time. On the right-hand side, you've got library, edit, and info. This video is going to concentrate on the library section. I've mentioned the different folders. These are all the folders that are actually on my computer, and I've got different sets of photos in each one where I can see anytime I'm going to drill down into one of these folders to see just images, and I organize them by location. You can organize them any way that you like on your computer. Now, the other thing that happens when you point Luminar at a set of folders, it will go and look at all the metadata for those folders and populate some shortcut areas. So you've got recently added, so things that you may have just added in recent days or weeks. And then all photos becomes a date-based view. So Luminar's gone out, looked at all the different photos that I have in any of the folders I've pointed it at, and it's drilled down and figured out which ones were in a year, month. You can even go down to the individual day. So if you need to do a search by date, you can do that in the shortcuts area over in the library panel. Another thing we have on the right-hand side are albums. Now, albums are curated collections of photos. They can come from any folder that you have in Luminar, and you pick and choose which ones you want to add. So in this case, for example, if I choose this photo here, and maybe this photo right here, say create an album, and those are all, architecture. So I can just say Untitled Album, we'll double click on it, and rename it architecture. Later on, if I wanted to add another photo to that, let's go maybe into my Italy folder. I've got some architecture here. I can just drag that over into that album. And now that album has the new photos that I've added. So very easy to add and remove things from albums. And you can create selected, curated collections of whatever types of photos you want to put together. Now also notice as I hover over these various photos, these small badges are showing up on the bottom. We have star ratings, we have a favorites rating, and this is getting into your metadata. You can rate your photos 1 to 5 stars. You can make them a favorite either by clicking on the badges. You can click on the stars to do things. You can also use keyboard shortcuts to move through your different photos. And this gives you some other options for sorting and sifting through the various photos that you have throughout your Luminar library. So far, I've only shown you the grid view in Luminar 4. We have other ways to look at our photos too. If you want to get a closer look at a photo by double-clicking on it, you get a nice large preview. And the interface has changed a little bit here as well. On the left-hand side, we have this film strip that shows all of the other photos that we have in the currently selected folder or album. So on the right-hand side, I have my Pictures folder selected, so I'm seeing all the photos that are in Pictures and anything beneath it right over here in the film strip. Now, if I drill down into California, I'll see this photo of Yosemite and a bunch of others that were just taken in California because that's the photos I put in this particular folder. Now, another thing we have access to through the interface is the Info tab. Over on the right side in Info, you get some basic information about the currently selected photo, the camera that was used to take it, camera settings, date and time, and various pixel measurements, all types of things we expect to see. And it's useful information to know, what was this photo taken at, reviewing anything that you might need to account for in your processing later on. If you were doing something at low light, you want to do some noise reduction, you've got all that type of information here. One other thing we have access to is looks. If I click on this looks button up here in the toolbar, I have a bunch of these small thumbnails here that show different renditions of my photo. These are presets. These are stylistic presets, and there are a whole bunch of different categories that come with Luminar. You can add in others that come from other photographers, and just by clicking on one of them in this set of thumbnails on the bottom, you can apply a completely different look to your photo right within the library module. Now, there's one other thing about the library module I want to show you. Go back to the grid view for this. In the upper right, we have these showing options. So I have pictures. I'm showing all the photos I have in this catalog, but I can quickly filter down to things that are more interesting to me. For example, I could say 4 stars or more, and I will only see the photos that I have put a 4-star rating on. And we can do the same thing with just say favorites. I have 1 in this catalog. You can look for rejected, anything that's unmarked, any color labels, if it's been edited or not. So a bunch of nice, quick and easy filters to help you find the photos that you want. So you've got your folders, you have date-based shortcuts, you've got filters for various metadata, a lot of different ways to slice up the way you're looking at your particular catalog of images. Now that's the library module and the basics of organizing your photos in Luminar 4. I hope you enjoyed the video and hope you'll stick around to check out the others in the series. Got any questions, drop them in the comments below. And thanks very much for watching. My name's Scott Davenport.